Hi, and welcome to our artist talks for Sublime Encounters and Other Worlds. My name is Andrea Bell, and I curated the show. And I'm here with Margareta Onestad, our first artist, who's going to be speaking to us about her works on paper and the two sculptures that are to the side. So, Margaret, do you just want to talk a little bit about your process, how you've made these works?
Yes, of course. Those are two very recent drawings that I've been making the past weeks, actually, at my studio at the Artists Alliance on Lower East Side, as a part of my residency. I've been doing pastel drawings for a very long time, and I experiment with it. So those are very like a next step from doing more rectangular shapes, but now what I've been doing is to use or to not have defined edges. And the process doing this has been using a kind of a darker pink and blue tones, using the pastel chalks, and then I've been mixing and going between using many different colors and tones of those hues, and also white and more like tones of different white. So there are many colors in those works. I see my shadows are here, but it's so it's basically also other like blue tones in the pink one, and also pink tones in the blue one, and also in those works. Going from far, like looking at them from far, they are, of course, you can see they are defined rectangular shapes, but the closer you get, the more they kind of disappear, and it's hard to define or to understand where actually it stops or starts. And also, of course, the paper tone, the creamy tone of the paper, and these specific kind of cold colors, and white has this kind of interesting dynamic, I think, on the paper. And the paper is also a very important part of my works. More like, so that I look at them as kind of sculptural.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Can you talk just a little bit about the way that time enters into these?
Of course. I'm interested in time in general in my work, and for those works it also is very important as they kind of appear in front of your eyes, and also you have to spend time with them to kind of see what happens, because there is a lot of action in the surface actually.
Yeah, then your eye has to adjust to the variations.
Your eye has to adjust, and it's also, I get someone who told me that it kind of reminds us about you when you look at something and you close your eye, like this kind of after what is after light, or after image.
Yeah.
After image. And time needs to be included in experiencing the works.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you have two sculptures here that are quite related to your drawing practice, which you also consider to be sculptural. So let's take a look at these.
Yeah, those are also really new works, and I'm really glad that you combined those works together after our studio visit. So they comes from a bigger, like a group of a body of works that I've been making at my studio the past months, and I work in found objects or materials that I buy in different places, and then I bring everything to the studio and I play with it. It takes time to find out what pieces go together. So those became two works that I'm very happy with. This is brass, and it's the first time I'm working with brass, and it's a very, for me, it's like a very gentle, like a gentle gesture, but it indicates something that's very, symbolic and eternal, and it's called Another Eternity.
Especially when you see the reflection of the
Exactly.
present.
So the light here is very, very, a crucial part of the work, which is very important, and it's also changing. as we see the light is changing, and it's also sometimes moving. It depends on the wind or the motion in the space. So
yes, when we were at your studio visit, it started to move in the wind a little bit, and I actually really loved that because it reminded me of a metronome clicking past the seconds while viewing these. So there was this kind of double interest in time there. Yeah,
absolutely. So, and then I have this other work which is made of found marble and also a piece of silk. And this silk comes from myself. I go around to textile stores wherever I am, and I find different pieces, and this one I couldn't really pass because I was so fascinated about the quality and the color and the shine, and also how the color's changing with the light, and also it's kind of like it's very soft, but still it has this kind of almost like paperish quality. So it was interesting to work with, but it's also a rectangular piece when you kind of pull it out. So I found that interesting when I started to work with it, also in terms of doing those rectangular drawings, and also this marble piece which is rectangular. But I wanted to do this like in the contrast to the marble, and it's like I wanted to find like a moment or like a tension between maybe leaving this shape and going up, or falling down, like settling. So, and also of course I appreciate those kind of small pieces like here,
the raw edge.
And together they really make sense when you, so.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, thank you.
Next we have Rotem Roshef, who will be speaking about the enormous scroll that you see behind me, as well as two of her smaller paintings. So thanks for being here, Rotem.
Thank you, thank you.
And I think we would all love to hear about the process that you use to make something like this, because I know it's something that you've developed quite a lot in your work, and it's very specific to you. So maybe we can start there.
Sure. I'm working with diluted acrylic paint on canvases. The canvases are spread on rolled on the floor, and I'm not using brushes at all. I'm just using the liquid paint. It's a water-based acrylic paint that I pour on the canvas. What I've been doing in the last 5 years is a series I call Imprints, and in Imprints I imprint different materials in the wet paint on the canvas. In the scroll of perseverance, which is what we have here, it was made stage by stage. I can never open the whole scroll. It's a very long scroll. So I always have only a section of the scroll that I'm working on, and I organize the different materials. In this case, it's all made with different plastics and threads that I organize on the canvas, and then I pour the paint on the canvas, and I let it sit. And after a while, it can be something between 2 weeks to 2 months. I peel off all the materials, and what is left is kind of a ghost image of something that was on the canvas, but not anymore.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. So it took me, I think, over a year to do this piece, because I painted section by section. It's the time is a really important part of the process, both the time that takes me to collect the materials, because I'm using humble materials, deserted materials, something that doesn't have much meaning before it was on my canvases. So it's collecting them, then organizing them, then the process of pouring the paint and waiting for it to dry, and then peeling it off, and then the ability to see the whole canvas, which is a lot. So I created during a lot of time, and then people are asked to spend some time looking at all the parts connected.
And I think one of the really incredible things is that you haven't seen the piece in its entirety, essentially until it's installed many times, right? Because especially here in New York City, you'll never find a studio big enough to house something like this to be unrolled all at once. So that moment of seeing it unrolled and watching you see your work for the first time is kind of very special.
It is. For me, this is the first time I see this scroll open, almost all of it. Sometimes I leave like a section which is kind of the mystery in the canvas, which is what we have here on the floor. But in general, most of it is now exposed, and it's really, really exciting for me. And also what I really like about the way it is hanged in this space is the way it interacts. I think all the pieces all the pieces here talk with each other, but this one fronting the window of the building,
the stained glass.
The stained glass window is really fascinating for me, and also the light, the natural light that is coming and hitting the different parts of the canvas. The gold, the bronzes are coming out, so I think there is a magic to this piece hanged specifically in this place, in this in the way it is hanged.
Absolutely agree. Shall we move to your two smaller works?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so your process isn't that different, but the outcome is quite different.
Yeah. I'm an abstract painter, but
these are actually rare in your work for being figurative.
Yes, exactly. Yes, and these two paintings are belong to a series I called Habitat. In Habitat, I have figures. It's usually me. In this case, it's also me. And the figures are tangled in nature. So instead of using the plastics and threads I've been using in the other work, I've been using trimmed trees, branches, different kind of vegetations I'm picking up again on the streets or in different parks. And I create these figures by using used clothes.
And these are your own clothes, right?
They are.
Often from your own closet.
They have to have a memory of me, of my body.
Yes.
And as you can see, one of them is facing. We see one is facing the front and one is from the back. They're looking at something, we're not sure what. And the fact that the figures are connected with nature in a way you cannot separate them is especially important to me. It was something I discovered through painting about me, about my family. And they're here to, again, as ghost images, as figures that are lying on the grass or maybe floating above it, or we're not sure exactly what they're doing.
I love the way that you describe both of these works as containing ghost images, or the traces of actual material. So they're not pure representation in that you haven't painted something, but you've just left the trace of that thing. I think that's really beautiful and poetic. Thank you. Thank you, Rotem.
Thank you very much.
I'm here with Paul Wiesenberg up next, and he has a truly innovative way of working with materials, both the paint and the canvas. And this is probably one of the most unique pieces I've ever honestly seen. So I think everyone would really love to understand how you accomplished this.
So the idea here was to divide the paint from the canvas. So for showing that the basic materials in the painting can survive without each other. So and make a piece of art. So it's a small table with a little induction plate. So with 4 magnets that are numbering the small iron particles in the paint. So and that's why it's floating. It's really floating, this thing, and they are numbering the whole time, and that's why it's rising. So that's all. What about the technique? And it's a little bit. The small philosophy of looking for new ways in the painting, or to playing with what we understand about it now, and yes.
Yeah, with the paint and its support, with the figure in the ground, these are all kind of classical terms in Western art, so you're really subverting them and making us actually see the paint float above the canvas.
Yes, so I'm build now bigger things, so bigger objects with really big parts of paint for my next solo exhibition in Germany.
That's great. Can I ask you how you came up with this idea, or how you were able to figure out all of the science?
So it was. I wanted to make it anyway, and just tried it with small propellers with the air, but it was very hard to.
Like it was unstable.
It was very unstable. So and then you can hear it. So and I spoke with a friend of mine who is at the university, and he's in these physics programs.
Yep, physics.
And physics, yes, and he helped me with it.
That's so interesting.
So and that's why we can do it.
So a real collaboration between art and science.
Yes.
Great. Let's move on to your other piece over here. And here you're actually playing with a lot of the same ideas of the figure in the ground, of what has to come above and what has to come below.
Yes, we have the classical situation in the painting is that the paint is on the canvas. So it's the same idea, but it's irritable because it's a normal format. So like classic painting. So, but the paint here is faked. It's not the paint. The drops are getting from the gips form, and but because no paint is dropping.
It looks almost like a circuit board.
Yes, and then here is the painting not really on the canvas. It's going through the canvas. It comes from behind the canvas. So, and that's why you have at the moment a lot of questions about it. And then it's visuality, where you could really it's like a body feeling that you normally get from the painting, but it's not the painting, it's all fake. So that's why, yes, that was the idea.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Peter Eric Lopez, who is going to talk to us about these quite arresting images, which are not quite portraits, and not quite not portraits.
Right, so the major body of my work has been portraits, but this is kind of the work I've been doing lately is a departure from just sitting portraits that I've been doing. So these are based on photographs of my family. So I did a bunch of photographs, I did a bunch of renditions of my mother's side of the family, which is the German side. I'm half German and half Mexican. The German side of my family was very easy for me to do because I live with my mother. I've lived with her all my life. I've got her memoirs that she wrote and access to her photo albums. These from my father's side are were a little more difficult to do because I don't know my father's side that well. He was estranged from his family. So these are pictures that I had, just the few pictures that I had of my father's side of the family lying around. So I kind of did what I could with them. What I'm enjoying about working with those pictures is because I don't know that side of my family as well as my mother's side, there's kind of a block for me. And so I think the darkness that we see in these is a result of the necessity that I'm kind of creating a new world here because it's a world that I don't know, I'm unfamiliar with. And so these are just, on the surface, they're just kind of portraits, sort of my aunts on my father's side.
Because the source material is actually family photographs.
The source material is family photographs. I think that there is, what's coming through for me with them is also the Mexican part of me, but also there's an Americana aspect to them as well. But also a barrenness, I think, but also a barrenness because I think of the blockage I have by not knowing this side of my family that well.
Now these are not blown up and traced. I also wanted to emphasize that. These are painted freehand from small photographs, right?
Yeah.
Is that what the process is?
Yeah, these are painted freehand from small photographs and just kind of, so for this one, what I did was I just kind of darkened, this was in the daylight in the photograph, and all I did was kind of darken it and throw a snake around my aunt's neck. And really it's this bigger piece is more of a companion piece to to this one here. I just wanted to make something that spoke to this one. This was the beginning, kind of the opening of this world. I think I've got 2 more pieces of this world to kind of get out. But this is also from a small photograph. Of course, it's 3 of my aunts. They're not standing there nude, of course. I kind of superimposed other bodies on them, but this is their body language that I've captured. I don't know who the little girl they are. They're kind of holding or protecting, or however you want to interpret it. But I think that was really an important part of that photograph for me. And the idea that I don't know that part of my family because I don't know who that little girl is.
Now, I know you've had a long-standing interest also in mythology, so I was just wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about the masks.
Yeah, so these masks come from a Mexican tradition called Danza de los Diablos. And what that is, it's a tradition in Mexico, specifically Oaxaca and Veracruz, where people put these masks on and do these dances to celebrate Afro-Mexican culture. It's only recently that it's really important, I think, for people to know. I don't think a lot of people know about this, but Afro-Mexicans have just been put on the census in Mexico. Afro-Mexicans have a very difficult time in Mexico. There are stories of the police stopping them and forcing Afro-Mexicans to sing the national anthem to prove that they're actually Mexicans. And I use these and the different colors of the bodies that are more kind of the spectrum of Afro-Mexican skin color, because I believe that a part of the estrangement of my father from his family could have been because he was a darker complexion than the rest of the family. So for me, it's kind of symbolic of part of that unknown for me.
Yeah, I think these 2 images work so beautifully together, and knowing the source material and the way that you're kind of recuperating this family history really adds another layer to them. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And finally, I'm here with Irene Mamie, and we're going to be speaking about her practice, which is sort of at the intersection of the digital and the painted, the sculptural and the virtual, the real and the imagined. So we'd love to hear about this piece first, Irene, and how you construct it and what your process is.
Sure, thank you. Well, first I want to say thank you to Andrea and to all of RU for the incredible experience that I've had here, the nurture and love that I felt all along with my fellow artists as well. My journey with photography, which is this work is photo-based, has begun, I think, ever since I could remember. My relationship to photographs began at a very young age when I learned about a family and a world, really, that was supposed to be lived, and places that I've never experienced were shown to me in these little black and white surfaces of photographs. And my journey has taken me, along with the medium of photography, through technology, because the 2 are so tightly bound. And it's been an incredible journey. As a photo-based artist, I'm very comfortable being behind the camera as an observer, the act of viewing and observing the world and trying to fit into a world that was new, and unexpected. And it's been like the perfect medium for me, so I'm really very in love with it, and all of the lens arts, actually. And I've followed, like I said, the technological climb. And here, this work is just a mixture, a little bit of found imagery, About 3 years ago, I put my camera down and tried to make sense of the influx of images that we've been hit with. And I started collecting and archiving images over the years. And like I said, Here, I think this is a very transitional piece that shows pixelation, Photoshop background. It has digital drops mixed with acrylic paint. It has very, very sharp imagery mixed with the poor JPEG pixelation. And it's just like, I think it speaks of a moment that we are experiencing right now in the digital age. It speaks of authorship and the free-for-all that became social media a few years ago. And the notion of authorship, which is now very much in flux.
Definitely, that's one of the critical terms of our time, I would say, authorship and who gets to claim an image.
Yeah.
It's incredibly important and relevant.
Yeah. So following the wave of technology, I arrived to my favorite piece, which is virtual reality, in which when you wear these really awkward
But surprisingly comfortable.
Comfortable, yes. Someone wrote that it feels like you're wearing like a jar over your head, and you're walking through a fragmented forest. Anyway, this apparatus and the whole technology behind it has been an incredible expression of displacement and dislocation for me, because when you're immersed in it, you don't have a shadow. You know, your mind is there, but your body's missing, and your legs are not there, and you're walking amongst like all of these found images that were like uprooted from their regular stream of their home in some way, and they're dislocated and they're trying to fit into a new world. So it's been, an incredible experience for me, which I did not expect at all, And so in keeping with the theme of this show, which Andrea really spectacularly came up with, the Sublime, which is a term that normally refers to nature, right? I think, speaking of Yosemites,
and mountains, the ocean.
But the digital, like I've learned, thank you, Sublime has to do with similar notions of
infinity.
Infinite, and the infinite, the unknown. There's a lot of weariness and fear behind it, and it really captures how I feel when I work. And taking other people's images, putting them as my own, like public, private.
Also making sense of that massive flow of images, which could be so unsettling and overwhelming. But then in your works, and I know you extract literally hundreds of thousands of images from the internet and recombine them into these just glorious works. So in some ways I do see it as your ability to kind of stake out a claim and make sense of something that is so infinite and varied.
Yes, thank you for that. It's really exactly that. It's more of a questioning than a, and I'm hoping that viewers get some of the experience that I feel when they experience the work.
Definitely. I wish that we could somehow allow the audience to see the digital VR. Actually, there are screenshots on your website and sort of videos of it, right?
Yes.
But the experience isn't the same without actually entering into that incredible world.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Irene.
So thank you. Thank you, Lulu.